The Minnesota Vikings picked up a massive 27-24 victory on the road in Seattle yesterday against the Seahawks. This was a must-win game. It now keeps the Vikings' hopes alive for winning the NFC and, of course, winning the NFC North. So they'd have home field throughout the entirety of the playoffs. They'd only have to win 2 games, both being at home, of course, to go to the Super Bowl. Coming into the year, there was a lot of skeptics surrounding the Vikings because Kirk Cousins left in free agency. But Sam Darnold, he could not have played any better so far. He's actually having an MVP type of season. Darnold, 3 touchdowns against the Seahawks, 246 yards. Just did a good job going out there and buying time and getting the ball into Justin Jefferson's hands, who had 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jefferson was actually double covered towards the end of this fourth quarter when the Vikings took the lead, and it just didn't matter. Darnold found him and scored. Just an unbelievable play, unbelievable throw and catch. Of course, there, Jordan Addison, 5 for 35. T.J. Hawkinson, 2 for 37. I thought overall the Seahawks defense played very well. The Vikings, they've got one of the best offenses in football. They scored 27, which isn't low by any means, but you want to beat the Vikings, you're going to have to probably put up 30 to this point. The Seahawks only scored 24. In terms of the run game, 18 of 67 for Aaron Jones. Nothing crazy. I don't think it was great. I don't think it was bad. Just enough, of course, to give Darnold a little bit of an opportunity to disguise what he's doing. We saw, of course, some play actions throughout this game. Cam Akers was kind of quiet in this one, only got 1 carry. It was just all Aaron Jones. The Vikings, they're going to put the ball into their playmakers' hands to try to win them these games, especially with who's up next, the Packers and the Lions. Got to win both of those to get the NFC. With the Eagles losing, that's just huge for the Vikings, of course. Big time, too. Now, they essentially control their own destiny. They win out. They win the next 2 games. They win this conference. That's big. Outside of that, though, the defense, Geno Smith, he ends up taking 2 sacks, throws the ball 43 times. Best case scenario, Seahawks can't run the ball, and the Vikings made sure that they were in 3rd and long situations. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 8 of 95. DK, 3 for 57. It just was one of those games where a 3rd down was an issue for both teams, if we're being honest. There wasn't that many explosive plays. The biggest play for the Vikings was 39 yards, which isn't low, don't get me wrong. But this was it was a good performance. Both teams came to play. It was fun. This was the loudest I had seen the Seattle crowd all season. And I think I'm ready to say that the Vikings legitimately are the best overall team in the NFC. The Lions aren't healthy. The Eagles definitely can make a case, but I just like how the Vikings have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. And this is going to sound crazy. I know Jalen Hurts has been to a Super Bowl. He played very well in it. Could have won MVP if it wasn't for that fumble that went for a touchdown to Nick Bolton. But I just trust Sam Darnold more than I trust Jalen Hurts right now. And this is coming from a big Hurts fan. There's just something about the way Darnold's playing. He's been waiting his entire life. He's been waiting for an opportunity to have these weapons, to have Kevin O'Connell. The offensive line for the Vikings, it's had its moments. I like their tackle play. The interior is kind of a question. But this team, it just doesn't seem like the Vikings are going to lose the rest of the year. If they lose, it's probably going to be against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I just don't know if anyone's going to go into Minnesota and beat this team with these weapons, with the way this defense is just flying around, wreaking havoc. It picked off Geno Smith twice in this game. They could have had 4 or 5 interceptions. There was one play, Blake Cashman ended up just dropping back into coverage, and Geno should have threw it to the flat, and he just missed it. There was a couple of other plays where legitimately it was just right in a Vikings defender's hands, and they didn't come down with it. So this team, it's just creating turnovers at the highest rate in the league. They get picks. The Vikings also just don't turn the football over very often. Like, you look at Sam Darnold's numbers, he's got 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and it just seems like his turnovers come in bunches too. But the rest of the way, Darnold, he knows he can't turn it over. He knows he can't give teams extra possessions. And if he just controls the football, the Vikings legitimately, again, have a chance to win this Super Bowl. They've got everything that you need to win. An elite defense, a pass rush that gets after you, of course, with Jonathan Grenard. They went out there and they drafted Dallas Turner of Alabama, who had his first interception in this one. The interior also is doing a good job. It's hard to run on the Vikings. This is just a tough, physical team that's very well coached on both sides of the ball. Offensively, Kevin O'Connell calling the plays, and then defensively, Brian Flores, who should be a head coach. I've always been a big Brian Flores fan. I make Dolphins videos all the time. I still don't get why he was let go of. I think he's one of the better defensive minds in this league. Comes in the Bill Belichick tree, of course. So you've got 2 head coaches on your team running both sides of the ball. Darnold's confidence is through the roof. And the crazy thing for the Vikings is that Darnold's going to have an MVP type of season when it's said and done. If the Vikings win the NFC and win this division over the Lions and Darnold plays well in Week 18, he should be in the MVP conversation. He's not having the year Lamar's having, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Like, he's not that good. But in terms of right below that, Darnold's in that tier. He's been phenomenal. I know a lot of it says about where you are, too. You look at, so Darnold last season was with the Niners. He was with the Panthers and the Jets. Those teams all stink. I like what I'm seeing out of Bryce Young, but those teams just completely stink. Kevin O'Connell is the best place to be in the NFL right now in terms of a quarterback. We saw Nick Mullins put together a couple of 300-yard games last season towards the end, and now Sam Darnold legitimately looks elite. The Vikings, it's going to come down to their run game, though. They've got to run the ball better because it's just going to open up everything and make them become unstoppable. Imagine if the Vikings can average 4.5 yards per carry, and then you've got the play action at Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. I mean, it's just going to be absolutely fun, too. You know who I really like, too, on this team is Jalen Nailor. It's good to see him getting more of an opportunity with the Vikings as well. The Vikings have some solid receivers. I watched them in the preseason. Brandon Powell's another guy that isn't really known. Trent Sherfield's more of a special teams guy. Actually leads them in tackles there. But this is a fun team. I mean, I've been making Vikings videos for years. The Vikings, they've been good. They've been really good. They had that, 13-win season a couple of years ago. They did lose in the wild card, and this is a much better team, though, man. The defense is elite. The defense for that team was not elite, to say the least. It was pretty bad. And I know the Vikings won a lot of one-score games, but so did the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have been in all one-score games but twice this season, and they've got 1 loss. So the Chiefs are the Chiefs are 14-1. The Chiefs are 14-1, and 12 of those were one-score games. So it doesn't matter exactly how much you win by as long as you win. And playoff games, the next 2 games, the Vikings probably will be one score. So just having the ability to make plays where teams don't make plays is huge too. And Kevin O'Connell, should he be the coach of the year? I think he should be. Like, the only coaches that come to my mind over him, Andy Reid. I think Mike Tomlin's in the running. Certainly Dan Campbell, but you look at just Kevin O'Connell, I'm even guilty of it too. I didn't think the Vikings would be as good as the Lions and the Packers. I thought they'd be a little bit worse. I didn't think they'd be trash. Like, I thought they'd be a 9-10 win team, but we're talking about them winning the NFC. It's got to be Kevin O'Connell for Coach of the Year. I don't even know if it's debatable. It's debatable because Andy Reid is definitely in the conversation. But just from my eyes and what I've seen all year, it's Kevin O'Connell, man. And if you've been following the Vikings for years, you would know that he is one of the best coaches. He came from the Rams, for crying out loud. He was with Sean McVay. And, man, he's cooking right now. The Vikings are absolutely cooking.